That was a really good tree. Welcome, everyone, to week 26 of the Pregnancy Desktop, inspired by Jason Concepcion's NBA Desktop.
Emmy-nominated.
Emmy-nominated NBA Desktop for The Ringer.
Maybe it won. I don't know when the Emmys are.
Oh, nor do I. Possibly Emmy winning. We don't know. And Daniel will look it up. So we'll have some real-time fact-checking. Okay, so week 26.
Who are you?
Oh, who am I? Okay. I am an athlete, former athlete, and two-time Olympian. Now I am pregnant with twins, so we are documenting our each week in this kind of fun adventure. And so this is a recap of week 26, and I like to open it with a little pun. So we were watching TV recently, and they were using lint to move around to act as little avatars, as pieces on a map. Anyway, so I have a question for you: is what would you call it if you used lint as your playing pieces for the game Battleship?
I don't know.
A naval fleet.
It's pretty good.
So that is inspired by some factoid.
What does that have to do with kids?
Well, it will become, the meaning, the relationship to this week will become clear, but not yet. To be revealed soon. So this week, the size rundown. So this week, they are the size of prairie dogs. So imagine two prairie dog, this guy in the middle, just just seems really big. Also zucchinis, prairie dog, zucchini, Also red cabbage. I love the variety of what they could be. Swede, which we learned from our friend, is another word for something else. Turnip or something? Can't remember. Kale. I'm a big fan of kale. So 2 heads of kale. Also seems really big. 2 cantaloupes, which we've seen before, so again, a repeat. And a head of lettuce, also a repeat. Really depends on your lettuce. Oh.
Skip.
Yeah.
Skip.
Okay. And, also the size of a skull. We got this one from our baby sizer friends website. Not our friends. I meant that casually. Oh. So, and if you added these two together, we were just thinking about what it would be in total. It would actually, if you added their weight, not by size or volume, but weight together, it's also the size of a brain, a full-size adult brain, which is fun to contemplate. So that's what's in there this week. And a win or fail this week is just carving out time. Everyone told us that this was a must-do, and so we finally did it. So starting at the end of week 26 and going through all of week 27, which we'll talk about more next week, has been an awesome vacation. So that was a pregnancy win for sure. And this week, I'm going to talk about one thing for about 10 seconds, and then Daniel, my partner, is going to take over and talk about the next thing. So my thing is just, now the pun should become more relevant. So I found this image. It's not my belly, and it's not exactly what my belly button looks like, but around this time, your belly button can be pushed out by the uterus. So all my life, my belly button, I feel like, is an average belly button. And it's, it's like crinkly, what's called an innie. And and all that skin has never, ever, ever, ever been had something push up and push it out a little. So the skin on mine, that happened. So I feel like I'm hitting this milestone perfectly. But it was a surprise to me. And the skin is so soft. It's really neat. Yeah, I really like it. So that happened. Okay, so I'm going to hand it over the reins to Daniel, who's going to talk about tips that he's been gathering from those who have recently become parents. We've been talking to a lot of people. It's been great, but I'll let you describe some of the best things you learned?
Sure. So yeah, I forgot the thing about the belly button too. That's neat. Basically, if you stored your face in a belly button for your life, it would look great.
Yeah.
People should start doing that. Okay, so what I did is a few weeks ago, actually I could even pull up the email and also see what else I'm up to. What was the email? Oh, I know that he was on it. Tips and tricks. So 100 days. So I sent this out on April 12th, which was 100 days before our expected due date of July 21st. Obviously that may change, but I sent a photo and I had asked a bunch of friends of mine to give me an hour of their time, and during which I would ask them a bunch of questions about their experience. I'd say about 70% of the people I asked were guys, 30% girls, and there's a really good response. And I think I've talked to at least a dozen people so far, and we'll talk to probably like 7 or 8 more that I have kind of in the wings. But it's been great. So I made a list of questions in basically chronological order, from inception, pre-birth, birth, early days, logistics, finances, relationship, and longer time horizon, and went through those. And not strictly. Sometimes some people had more to say about one topic than another. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of the big takeaways. So nothing super specific, but so for the first topic on inception, I was kind of just curious. This wasn't something that we were really going to use as practical advice, but just to satisfy my own interest, was how they got into it. And it was a vast range, from people that started dating 3 months prior to people that somehow kept mistakenly getting pregnant and then decided after like one abortion to keep it afterwards. And people that tried for a long time where it was like really planned and wasn't working, and then even sometimes surgery was necessary to actually have it work. There were miscarriages. I think that there's it's I feel like you don't often hear about all of this because you kind of often get the news at the 16-week time point, in which like all of this other early stuff has already been dealt with. So it was interesting kind of hearing about that. But in terms of practical advice, we asked them about pre-birth, and there was a bunch of different comments, but the main takeaways is that people buy too much stuff, but that it's hard not to because you don't know what you need, and you want to feel prepared, and that's like a bad combination. And also, most people didn't really like the books that they read ahead of time. And even I talked to one person who had started reading the book, What to Expect When You're Expecting, which is a very famous book. And his OB was like, put that shit down. Do not read it. It's just going to make you nervous. Like, I'm your OB. I know you. I know your wife. I know what's going on. And I'm going to give you the advice you need to, like, the information you need, I will give you. I'm not going to hold things back. So that made sense to me. And it's also part of the reason I was doing this was that a lot of the books that I was reading haven't been like that great, although we're reading a good one now. We should maybe talk about it in the future. Okay, and then I talked about birth, and I was mainly just interested like what I could do that would be helpful, but there wasn't that much information. Like I had one friend who had gone like really whole hog on the first kid and like had a duffel bag that he brought to the birth with like everything he had read that you could possibly want. He'd even like spent the day before on a special trip to the sports store to get tennis balls, as he heard that if you had those and squeezed on them, it could help alleviate the pain. But I think the main takeaway was that it's traumatic, or it can be traumatic. For a number of people, it was like quite traumatic, both for the women usually, but also for the guy who's like there witnessing, and sometimes for the baby as well. So it's a dramatic moment, and for a number of the females that I spoke with said it was the most pain of their life. So that sounds tough. Uh, and also that, and along with that is that oftentimes plans went out the window. So many people had like kind of elegant plans for the birth, and then things happen and you're not necessarily ready for them. And then you end up, some people that weren't planning to have their kid in the hospital had their kid in the hospital. They were glad they did in the end. But it just, sometimes, yeah, it just seemed like things can become, uh, you're planning when you don't have the information that you have in the moment. So it makes it the plan. It seems like you should have some flexibility with your plan and not be too dogmatic. And then early days, again, it was a range of experiences. The babies are different, the parents are different. One thing that was common was sleep was an issue. Um, we had some kids that were good. They were sleeping 3 hours and then waking up. Some kids, one kid was waking up every hour for years, or at least a year. I think for 1 year, for the first year, every hour. So yeah, and it seemed like there was some relation between the amount of difficulty and other advice about getting help. Some people were like, you can handle it. Other people were like, definitely get help. And what was interesting though is that it's not that you don't necessarily have any time. It's just that you're so kind of worn out mentally that you can't really be productive in the time that you do have. And so one point that was made was like contingency plans are really important, and that just be aware, and just flexibility in general. Like you have again, same as with the birth, you may have a plan, but it might not. Your kid might not really be in agreement with that plan. And then logistics. This was a section that like wasn't actually that useful. People had different things they did for different kids. I was asking kind of like, what did you buy? What did you use that was really effective? Yeah, so that wasn't that useful. But one thing that was interesting was I was asking about documentation too, and the different approaches people took. And yeah, generally some of the people thought more is better, and also the people that had done professional photos were really glad that they had done it and wish they had done it more often. Finances, I didn't really talk too much about this, even though I had questions about it. Just it's so variable depending on the situation of the parents, and so stuff that's applicable to us, might not, or stuff that like was useful for them might not be applicable for us. But one thing that we talked to someone who has a young kid in Paris right now, or two young kids in Paris, and we're planning to move there. So that was interesting just to kind of get a sense of like the medical pricing, which seemed really good. We have to look into it some more, but they were saying you can get like a pediatrician to do a house call for 20 to 30 euros, which seems crazy to me. But great if it must be true because they're living there and have done it. But and then this was like a big section in the end, the relationship section. In general, it turned out to be like a big change. You have kids. You're going from 0 to 1 when you're having your first kid. And that's obviously something that's going to alter many aspects of your life. Also, there was many people, both females and males, who commented on the hormonal effects post-birth, and how you need to be aware of it because it really does change. Like it has a big effect, and it can be frustrating for both people. It seems like because of that. So communication, clearly key. And the other thing that people said, and this was kind of like as you go along and try and reestablish like your relationship is very important, even starting early, to kind of like carve out time. And a lot of people had that kind of scheduled in, which seems kind of strange when you're in a position with no kids to have like a strict schedule, but obviously makes sense because many people are doing it. And then the last thing that I noted down was some people had talked about writing letters to their kids each year, which I thought was interesting, and then they give it to their kid at some point in the future. They didn't really have like a very clear plan about how that part of it worked, but I thought that's kind of like cool because it captures how you're thinking and your like memory of them at a certain point in time, especially in the early days. It seems like that could be interesting. Yeah, so that was, and that's so that's ongoing.
I really like it. Okay. So one last thing to take us out is is insults that young kids can hurl at their parents, which is sort of the ending piece of our Vlog. So this is it here. Um, so hide and seek with the grandfather, and yeah, just like a really rough insult. I don't know why Nana married you anyway. She yells, and then the grandpa replies, because she loves me. And then the kid replies, you don't know that. um, yeah, I think, I don't know. So reflecting more on this section, I kind of am thinking we should change the sick burn section to something else, like kid logic or something. That's, I feel like we've gone through a lot of good insults now. It might be time to retire this section. But anyway, on that note, thanks for sticking it out to the end of week 26. And yeah, next week, week 27, we'll talk more about our really cool vacation and other good stuff. Thank you.